Hello, this is Tipping Point Radio, and you're listening to The 42 Show. Today we're asking if you deserve happiness. Do you have a right to be happy, and do you have a responsibility to be happy? All this in Morgan's new bumper sticker, as three guys pursue the answers to life, the universe, and everything.
Hello everyone, this is the 42 Show, episode number 2. I'm Craig Merriweather. I'm here with Morgan Boatman.
Yeah.
I'm here with Morgan Boatman and Brad Olson. So it's the 42 Show.
What does that mean, the 42 Show?
Hitchhiker's Guide. Okay,
I know it's a reference to the...
Okay, so it's basically...
this, that, and everything, or whatever you call it.
The 42 Show. So basically, when I was trying to come up with what the whole point of this was, I thought, it's basically just three guys trying to figure out the answer to life, the universe, and everything. I thought, that's that phrase from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I thought, there you go. Let's do something 42.
Okay.
The 42 Show. And we're here to talk about things that affect our lives on a daily basis. Actually, I wanted to follow up with from the last episode. We sort of touched on it a little bit and then kind of got off on a tangent somewhere else. But we wanted to talk about happiness because we seem to have a little bit of an argument about happiness and whether one has a right to be happy, whether one deserves to be happy, and maybe what one can do to become happy. And actually, you and I, Morgan, got into a bit of a thing on happiness where I said people deserve to be happy. I guess my question is, do people have a right to be happy? Not that it's handed to them, but is it a basic human right that people be happy?
I think people have the opportunity to be happy. I don't think they have any kind of presumed necessity to be happy, and therefore, some kind of God-given or natural right to be happy. They have the right to be and feel what they want to feel. That's a more awesome responsibility.
It's their choice, but I'm thinking that they do have a God-given right, and maybe even a need to be happy, because that's what's changed in the world. If you're going around being angry and miserable and making everybody else angry and miserable, not being around you, how is that changing anything in your life or the world?
This is a semantic issue. I mean, a right and a need are vastly different, I believe. Yes, we need to eat, but if you decide not to, you may decide not to. And plenty of people have for various reasons.
Yeah, but isn't that an illness, a mental illness? If someone decides not to eat, and I'm not talking for political reasons or anything, but on hunger strike, someone says, I'm stopping eating because I want to commit suicide, wouldn't you want to reach out and help that person? Or just shrug and say, it's your choice.
You lost me there. If somebody doesn't want to eat, it's my responsibility to feed them? No. It's my responsibility to honor their path.
But that's not a path. Maybe that's a distorted way of thinking. I mean, I'm sure you see this all the time, Brad. I mean, people come to you and say, I'm fed up, I've had enough, and on Thursday I'm going to take a handful of pills, and you can't just shrug. That's distorted thinking. There's something wrong with their thinking process.
Well, I think it's a very complicated thing, and I don't know if happiness is a right. I think it's an artifact. Happiness is the result of living a particular way or doing certain things. Do we have a right to be happy? Well, I suppose in the realm of what is it permissible for human beings to do, sure. But I guess I've never thought of it as a right. I see it more as an artifact of choices we make.
In the larger scheme of things, isn't the end result to be happy? This is why we do the work we do. This is why we get in the career we do. This is why we marry the people we marry, have the relationships with friends we want. This is why we buy the cars that we do, listen to the music we do, watch the movies we watch. Because of the end result, that we think or hope or pray that will make us happy.
But that's one of the problems with happiness from my perspective. It promises, all these things promise happiness, and often they don't deliver happiness. And so my question maybe is even more basic. What is happiness? It's something I spend a lot of time thinking about, frankly, about being happy. I think more about it in terms of, is my life meaningful? Does it feel significant to me to be living this life? And
Sure. At the end of life, you want to be on your deathbed and say, that was pretty cool.
No, every day.
Well, every day, but there's a certain right every day. But in the end, you want that meaning in your life because that's going to give you fulfillment. That's going to give you joy. That's going to give you happiness.
And then you're gonna die. What does that mean, deathbed?
I mean, when you do the final review of your life.
That's stupid, Craig. And
Why is it stupid? No, because you don't want to get to your life and say that sucked.
Why?
You want to live your life now and you want to be happy. But we spend our time looking outward, doing other things to get happiness, and we never get happy from that. And I'm saying that.
Don't we? Do we? I don't know. It's like Brad said, what is happiness? I mean, is Mother Teresa happy? Is Hitler happy? I mean, they're doing the things they love, right? Happiness is not the widescreen TV that you buy at Walmart. And that's how come we want that, because it is something we can acquire clearly and definitively.
But my point is that the reason we are trying to acquire those things is to find that happiness. We're doing it the wrong way.
Are we?
Looking for the,
But the hell are you going to tell me how to be happy? That's my point. It's not your.
I'm not telling you.
Yeah, you are.
I'm not telling you how. I'm telling you you need to be it.
No, you just said that buying a TV won't make me happy.
Talk to him. Fix
I
this.
He agrees with me. You're wrong.
I think this is one of the real problems that we have in our culture, is that we don't know what happiness is. And we've got a lot of people telling us what happiness is. Happiness is a new car, happiness is a warm puppy, happiness is this or it's that. And I'm not so sure that happiness is something, frankly. Don Draper has a great line on Mad Men. I don't know if you guys watch that show. It's one of the best written television shows I've ever seen. And he says that happiness is that moment before you want more happiness.
Yeah, but that isn't that where addictions start?
Yes, it is. It is.
And that's where the distorted thinking. And I'm saying if you can get past that stuff or remove that stuff and look inward, because I think the happiness is already there. I think it is a God-given right. I think we're programmed for it. It's genetically encoded. It's however you want to say it. And we spend so much time looking for the large screen TVs or the next love affair or the next drink of alcohol to get us that little jolt because it feels good.
I think maybe joy is a more interesting concept to me than happiness. As I was driving to work yesterday, I was listening to NPR, and some woman's written a book about parenting, and the title of it is All Joy and No Fun. And her point is that parenting is hard, but it is a joyful experience, and that happiness is more related to fun. We're happy when things are going well, we're happy when we're having fun, we're happy when this or that. But joy seems to be a more enduring and a deeper emotional experience than happiness.
Happiness is the orgasm and joy is the love.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll buy that.
Yeah.
And that's why we go for consumer stuff, because that gives us a little orgasm.
Yeah.
And then it's gone. All right. Now what do I do?
But aren't we going for the constant orgasms because the joy is covered up?
Yes.
We're angry or miserable, and I think that's what the distorted thinking is all about. Is it gets masked, and I think it's there. I think it's there already.
I think we operate better in a balanced state. I think we perform better. I think we think better. I think we are better men and fathers if we are in a balanced state. The tools that we need to maintain that balanced state are not forthcoming in today's society. I think the joy, the happiness, the sense of satisfaction, the sense of meaning is due to the use of those tools. Just like it feels good to hammer in a nail, it feels good to use tools properly. And whatever society and culture and our family of origin and our government and our everything else is telling us to use these tools improperly. And that leads to the opposite of happiness and joy and a sense of purpose and confusion as to, well, what do I do with this hammer? Yes, happiness and joy may be there in the toolbox, but we don't know what to do with it.
Okay, so we're ignorant to how to have joy in our lives on a regular basis. Because what I hear you say, you can have joy and still have to do the dishes. You can have joy and still be frustrated at work for some time. If you're overwhelmed, certainly family health issues and things like that crop up. But if we're ignorant to how to grow, strengthen that joy, then what do? How do we figure out what are the ways to learn how to use those tools so we're not stuck in this, we're not miserably comfortable all day long?
You break the habit. You break the routine and become less distracted or break free of distraction, because everything you do can be reduced to usually a habit or a distraction, a routine or a distraction. And if you're sad, if you're depressed, it's a habit. Unless you have some
right, but yeah, no, I agree with that. I absolutely
chemical
agree.
or
Well, I mean,
organic problem.
Here's the three of us, and we have three very different ways of being in the world. And I think this is for me, this is the answer to your question, is that we have to find whatever it is in our unique individuality that wants to be expressed. And we all have that in some fashion. And the goal is to find a way to simply discover who you are and be that, and bring that preference or that way of being into a kind of full expression. That's not an easy thing to discover. It's not an easy thing to discover who one is. And we have, lots of false starts sometimes with lots of different ways of being. We try different things on. I mean, that's what we've all got teenagers. That's what being a teenager is about. It's about trying all these different ways of being on to see what fits. And I think we do that long after our teen years are over.
But isn't that what a midlife crisis is all about? So
I don't think it's a crisis at all. I think it's a really normal thing. Now, I think the way our culture is set up, when we're told that you should know what you're going to do with the rest of your life when you're 21 years old, I think that's a problem, and that can promote a crisis if you have believed that you should always know where you're going, you should always know what you're doing, you should always know what makes you, happy. That kind of a belief system sets an individual up for a midlife crisis. But if you have the notion that things are always in flux, and that you're looking for balance, which is never lived in a moment, in a particular moment. Balance is always a kind of sum total of experience. So, like a marriage, it's never an equal amount of work being done at any given time. Over time, you hope that the total amount of work done is equal. This is, balance is like happiness. It's not something that's achieved in a given moment. It's more...
and it's not a static position.
Yeah, exactly. It's always moving. It's always changing, always in flux. And so are we as individuals. I don't think any of us have really, at least comfortably settled on who we are. I've not ever met anybody who has.
That's Craig's deathbed. He wants to be settled.
That's right. I want to get to my deathbed and say that didn't suck. And to do that, there needs to be meaning, there needs to be purpose, there needs to be love, joy, we were just talking about. And if you spend 60 years trying to find that, 70 years...
But that's the journey, man. You're gonna arrive at a place and go, okay, now I'm set. Now I'm happy and I got success and I have meaning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't mean I'm dead. It means I'm living life. It means I'm living life, not trying to find life. If I could have done that in my 20s,
you did it in your 20s. You're doing it right now.
I was struggling. I was wandering. I was searching. It was miserable.
Okay, you're like on a whole different page. What do you think life is? Life is.
I'm not saying I'm going to stop growing. I'm going to stop learning.
It sounds like that's what you're looking for.
No. I love learning. I love searching. I love the aspect of it. But the confusion and the frustration and the disappointment that was my 20s. That's not your experience.
That's all internal.
I know.
So let it go. Stop being confused. Take a position. Then you don't be confused. Right?
If you don't understand what the positions are, if you were led down a certain path through...
you know why there's religion, Craig? Is so that people don't have to be confused. So that people don't have to make decisions.
But that's what made me confused. I was sucked into that big time.
Yeah.
And if you get into your 20s and you...
Then that's perfect. Then you see that not having questions is stupid, and having questions is correct.
Right.
I'm about to hit you.
Well, I do think this really does point to one of the really problematic things in our culture is that there's this idea that's pretty pervasive that we should know stuff, that we should know things with certainty. And I frankly don't think there's anything we can know with certainty. How do you know when the dream is real while you're dreaming it? How do you know what's real and what's not real? I think if we're able to give our kids what we didn't get, which is a kind of comfort and acceptance of ambiguous states of being, some kind of comfort with confusion, comfort with having hard to understand or hard to manage emotions, they will have a very different experience than the three of us had as kids. Because that wasn't pleasant for me, and well past my 20s, actually, and into my 30s. I don't think I could find water if I fell out of a boat when I was 33. This is just a process, I think, of just allowing oneself to be who and what one is. And being okay with that.
But if you don't know what that is, if you've been taught through church and through parents and through teachers and school that this is who you need to be, and they build that box and they try to stuff you in that box and you're 12, 13, 14.
See?
What?
And what were they doing? They were trying to make you happy. They said, oh, Craig has a problem. Let's try to make him happy. That's why you can't try to make other people happy.
Well,
unless you're paid to. If they come to me and they want to learn kung fu, then I teach them. All right? I don't go around and just say, hey, you need to know how to punch people. That's not my role.
I'm not saying that it's your role to make people happy, but your ability to be happy, to have that joy. You go through two paths. You can be angry, miserable, you can be happy, have joy. And you affect the world with that attitude, with that emotional state. It's the person who walks in the party. They're the life of the party. They bring the party down. You've all met those people. You've seen them come into the meeting. They're pissed, they're creatively happy, and they're brainstorming.
So you want to be the life of the party, Craig?
I am the life of the party.
I don't know about that.
Now, what you read on the internet?
I don't read on the internet.
Whatever. And so we have the ability to affect other people.
Yeah, but I don't care.
What
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It absolutely matters. This is why we got the problems in the world we have.
Because I wake up on the wrong side of the bed?
Yep. It's all your fault.
It's a hell of a world, then.
What you're talking about is people telling you you should be different, you shouldn't be who you are. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a sense of identity at whatever developmental stage they're in. And the problem is not that I don't know who I am. I can tell you relatively, loosely who I am at any stage of development, but the problem is that people tell us that it's not okay to be that. And it's not like you don't know who you are. You have the belief that you can't be who you are. And that's the problem, I think, more than not knowing who you are. And so the move has to be away from a kind of authoritarian, understanding of the world, that all knowledge can be known. It can't. I just don't believe it can be.
My point, I think I'm trying to make is, and it's a extreme point, but I think it's my belief that you have a responsibility. If you want to see change in the world, if you want to see change in your life, it's your responsibility to find that joy on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And
only because it's practical, though, not because God told you to.
Well, that's a whole other episode.
No, it's not. It's a fact. If you want things to change, then you change them.
Right.
Okay.
All right then. I guess that's the end of the episode.
See?
What I'm saying is that it's a responsibility to wake up on the right side of the bed if you want to get to the end of your life and say, that was awesome. And this is where we become ignorant of the tools. We don't know how, if you want to build that house and you have no idea what the hammer's for, it's your responsibility to go out and figure out, watch a YouTube video on how to use a hammer. You need to get the training to use the tools appropriately. And if you're walking around in your life miserable, angry, frustrated, disappointed, and you're buying that new TV or you're finding that new relationship or you're taking another drink of alcohol to kind of numb that or to hopefully get that happiness buzz for a couple of hours, then you're not moving towards your goal. And you have a responsibility.
How can you say that, Greg?
Why?
How can you say that someone else's actions are not moving them toward a goal?
Because I see the results. It's easy. Look at the results.
Your result or your goal may be vastly different than theirs.
I doubt that. At the result, I might want to get to the end point in a different way, but I think our end result that we all want, and of course I'm speaking for 7 billion people, but is to have that joy on a 99.99% basis all the time. To have that feeling. Now I'm not saying that life all of a sudden turns problem free, but you can now move through your problems with a little more grace and ease.
If you want that, then it's your responsibility to be happy.
Who doesn't want that? Why would somebody?
That's not my. I don't know who would not. A lot of people that I've met in my life don't seem to want that.
Have you asked them?
I don't care.
Well,
your responsibility is to be happy for yourself.
Right.
To be your version of happy.
Mm-hmm.
But
why wouldn't I want to go out? And I'm not going to tie people to a chair and say, be happy and do a Clockwork Orange on them. Your ability.
No, that's religion's responsibility.
There's a certain, with joy comes compassion, with joy comes empathy.
Does it?
Yes, absolutely.
No, that's another show.
I don't think so, because I just answered the question.
You're so creative, Greg.
I think, how can you be happy and then tell somebody else to fuck up? And how can you have that joy? How can you have that?
Because they're on their own path.
That doesn't mean you can't help them, can't pick up a hitchhiker every now and then, or give somebody a map.
It actually does. Because their path is their path. And it's not my responsibility to change it.
I didn't say it's your responsibility to change it, but if you see somebody struggling, throw them a life buoy.
Throw them a life buoy?
If you see somebody drowning, you'd go help them. You're going to say, well, they shouldn't have gone boating. Last time they take a Carnival cruise. Edit that out before I get sued. I know you would totally go out and help somebody. If you heard that one of your friends went out hiking and got lost, you'd be the first one out there with a flashlight looking for him.
Yeah, I have to say we've all seen evidence of your generosity. Yeah.
It's true.
That's a problem.
But yeah, I would like to. I would rather live in a world where people are empathetic and compassionate than not.
I think it's their responsibility to do so
All
all the time.
I don't want to interfere in other people's paths.
Then they'll tell you to fuck off.
Good.
I'm on my own path. I don't need your help. I'm not saying browbeat them and stand on a street corner, but if you see somebody struggling, you'd go help them because you're deep down somewhere in there is compassion. And if we had more of that, maybe we wouldn't be such a screwy planet that we are.
I don't know.
I do. I'm telling you. Listen to the replay, and you'll learn something.
Nice. So is that happiness, helping people?
Could be. There's actually lots of studies that show the increase in happiness through helping people and gratitude and being grateful. And it's lots of studies showing that doing things like not only writing down what you're grateful for, but writing a gratitude letter to somebody saying, "So thankful you're in my life. You've been a great mentor. You've been a great friend." And actually, there's a video on my YouTube channel. Maybe when we get the Facebook page up, I'll throw it on there. And it showed that the increased level of happiness increased when you actually told somebody. So they had these people actually call on the phone. And first they had them think about somebody they were grateful for. Then they had them write a letter to this person. Then they had those people call the person. And they filmed them doing it. And the amount of joy and happiness and love that came out of that was exponential. And it lasted. Actually lasted. It's not a buy a TV and 2 days later you're kind of tired of it. This lasted for like about 30 days. And if you would do that, a couple times a week, imagine how that would lift you to that point where you no longer have to think about wanting that TV anymore or that next drink or that you're so in the zone of.
If joy and happiness is our right, then how come we don't do that?
Yeah, because maybe that's the training.
If we know it works.
Because we're ignorant of the tools, like you said. Nobody's training us the right way. And maybe that's if, there's these awesomely weird views of the world that physicists are coming up with, like reality is a computer simulation. Out there, sort of just like the Matrix. So out there, we decided we needed to learn something, so we created this hologram of a universe so that we could learn through trial and error something that we need on the other side. And so if we're put in these situations where we need to find what that joy and happiness is, how can we find that joy and happiness in the lives that we have, then it's just like a big computer. It's like a flight simulator. We're trying to figure out how this stuff works. And why we don't, maybe that's part of the training simulation. I don't know.
Gosh, excuse me.
Nothing. But but why it takes so long, I don't know. Maybe other people it's easier, but I think
so long, 100-year life in all the expanse of the universe.
But it's like why do people eat the way they do when they know for sure that this is going to be unhealthy? It's great in your 20s, eat whatever you want, but all of a sudden you're overweight and you have diabetes and you're an adult.
Listen,
the doctor told you if this is a problem, why do you keep doing that?
If life is an illusion or a computer program, then it doesn't matter, does it? He can eat whatever he wants. And happiness is an illusion.
But then why? Well, you could get on a flight, so you could join the Air Force, get on a flight simulator, and keep crashing the airplane. But what's the point? Other than
crash the airplane.
Other than you're going to get kicked out of the Air Force, or you're going to become an Air Force janitor. If your goal is to learn to fly the plane, why would you just run it into the mountain every time?
Because you can. It's fun.
Really? But
I think
voice of reason now coming.
I think that there's a principle at work in human behavior as well as the physical world called entropy, right? Where matter moves from a more organized state to a less organized state. And I think human beings experience that too. And it's very hard to work up a kind of negentropic energy where you start putting matter back together again. And the bad habits we get into that you talk about, Morgan, that habit energy is terribly entropic, I think. And it just...
But it's,
and
at the
there's
same time,
something
it's an effort to control that.
Yeah. But there's something that feels good about just, at least for a moment, just not giving a shit about anything and letting it all go and, sitting around and just being a slob and, all that stuff, right? And for a moment, it's like, but that
Craig should have something to say about that.
that's not sustainable, in the long run either, in terms of satisfaction or happiness or whatever we want to call this, or joy. But it's very hard, I think, to harness the psychic energy it takes to counter that, dissipation.
So there's a kernel in our being of wanting to seek, of seeking joy, of seeking balance. All right, maybe we can use those as synonyms. I'm not sure yet. But everything in society is telling you to do something else, to not be yourself, or to do this instead of that, right? It's the tools that we're not offered that we could use to control our lives and move toward joy or balance. And this is what we're lacking. So we need the tools.
Right.
Research has shown us some tools, the gratitudes. Experience has shown us some tools, probably the very same ones. So the problem is in your very first question to us. Do we have a right to happiness? The problem is that happiness is not a goal. It's not a thing that you achieve. It's the use of the tools. So we're proceeding on an incorrect premise that we're going to buy the hammer and then be a great carpenter. What we need to do is learn how to use the hammer, and then there's a possibility of being a great carpenter.
I think it's the idea is that, for me, is that we already are that. We already are joy. We already have happiness. And it's like that Michelangelo thing, where when he does a sculpture, he just imagines a sculpture and takes away everything that is not the sculpture. And we, due to training, due to growing up stuck, due to trauma, due to tragedy, friends, parents, religion, that joy can get covered up.
You can get rid of the crap.
Yeah.
Don't
and
you need
then what's left over is
well, it's raw material. If you don't have the skills, you need to be given those. You need to be exposed to them. And you need to have the will to learn them.
And then that's what I think the midlife crisis ends up being, is you've been taught that you need to move through the world in a certain way, and by the time you ended your 30s, and you're gung-ho in your 20s maybe, and you're still learning and growing, 18 to 28 is a huge growth, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. 28 to 38, maybe not so much. So you have this time to start looking at your life and saying, okay, this isn't what I signed up for, or this isn't what I wanted. And you hit your 40s and you think, maybe a new life, maybe move to a new town, maybe I'll ditch my awful career and start a business. And this stuff.
Man, I have a midlife crisis every week. And I welcome it. I welcome the opportunity to reinvent myself. Right?
I don't know. I have no idea. It sounds miserable to be in crisis all the time.
Well, no, but this is one of the tools, I think, that Morgan is referring to. One of the tools in the box, hopefully, is the ability to reframe your own situation so that rather than being awful, it becomes, an opportunity. Because we do spend, in this country anyway, an inordinate amount of time bemoaning how awful things are. And that's kind of our national pastime. We
got the easiest life on the whole planet.
God, yeah.
The very first world problems that we're dealing with, and even that we're talking about right here. I mean, I think if we were living in the Sudan or in Syria or someplace like that, we'd have a very different conversation about joy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my Wi-Fi is not working, man. Damn it.
So, but I think the ability to reframe, because even in those situations, Viktor Frankl and Elie Wiesel wrote so beautifully about their experiences in in the camps in Germany during World War II. They were doing that very thing. They were taking this horrible, horrible experience, and rather than just letting it only be horrible and awful, they found some treasure in it.
And wasn't that treasure going out and helping the other campers who weren't doing so well?
It was humanity.
Did you just say campers?
I guess I did.
You're going to hell.
I don't edit this stuff out. You understand
That's why I'm here, man.
that? Okay. All right.
So I think that's one of the essential tools, and we have to develop all kinds of them, because otherwise you just go around hammering everything. That doesn't.
That's right. You have to have multiple tools.
Yeah.
Screwdriver and a hammer and pliers and everything else. And that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That the concentration camp exercise or example is perfect. Same kind of thing happened. George Takei, who was Sulu on Star Trek, wrote a beautiful piece about the internment of Americans of Japanese descent in around the same time. His experience, his feeling of community, and the love that his mother showed he and his brother going to this. I mean, can you imagine being you've got happiness, and then someone comes and takes it from you? Okay, here's his program for the day. You guys are coming with me. You don't know what's going to happen. It could be a concentration. I mean, it was a concentration camp, but it could be a death camp.
Right.
It could be, well, they lost all their possessions for no reason. But the humanity that was in that experience is still a source of joy and happiness to him.
Yeah, that must have been awful. And here's maybe where the computer simulation part of it comes in, the training part of it. I can't even imagine why something like that would happen.
And if you were in charge, you would say, no, I don't want that to happen. And I don't want Hitler to take power. And I don't want Mao to kill a bunch of his own people. And so and so and so, right? If you were in charge.
Right.
And we'd all just be jellyfish. I'm saying that within crisis, within the struggle, that is the joy. That is the life.
Yeah, and we can see that through Viktor Frankl and George Takei and people like that who, once they move through this unimaginable trauma and tragedy, that they can find that sense of purpose and that sense of meaning.
And it doesn't have to be an epic crisis like that.
No, not at
that's
all.
in the history books. It could be,
But I'm guessing...
my Wi-Fi doesn't work today.
Right, but I'm guessing, and maybe that's all we can, and that maybe that's sad about us, maybe that's all we can do on it. But you get somebody powerful like George Takei or Viktor Frankl or Anne Frank or any of these people who can move through that and still find that joy and that meaning. And that, I'm guessing they didn't learn that there. I'm guessing that was already there, inbred. Maybe they chipped away all the crap and realized, I'm reduced to nothing now. What comes up? Hatred or joy? And you make that choice. You can
I don't know. I think
be
that
miserable, or you can, and I don't know how they did it. I mean, I've read the books.
I think as human
I
beings,
still don't understand how you're with 2,000 other people who are just miserable and awful, and I would be too, probably. I don't know that I could find that kind of strength. And through all of that, you become that light. And his day was going around and helping others. And everything was taken from him. And all he had left was his decision to be miserable or to find some sort of grace and meaning and purpose in what was happening. Some guys, in the military shuts down America, and they come to my door with guns and saying, "Okay, you're coming with us, and because of what you wrote on the internet, or because of the organizations you belong to, or the books you've read, we checked your library account, and you've read some nasty books, so you're coming into this internment camp." And they got a gun to my head. Yeah, I guess I'm going. I don't know what else I'd do. And would I be able to? Would I just be miserable, and why me and poor me and what the hell is this all about and how can I get out of here? Or would I have the strength and ability to chip away and wash the mud off the windows and see the meaning and purpose in it? I don't know. That's the tools I don't know that I have.
Well,
and how do you get those? If we have the toolbox, we all have the same toolbox, and
you learn by washing the mud off the windows when they don't have it under your head.
Yeah, I guess. But usually it takes that tragedy
No.
for people to wake up. Absolutely.
No. I think
Brad would tell you that in a heartbeat. That's his business.
I think
They come to him.
I think people who are able to work through those kind of things have the ability and have those skills before that. It doesn't just spring up. These are people who have those skills and are talented already. And that's what the happiness in these little crises can teach us.
Well, and we get all these opportunities to practice. You're right. People come to see me because they have a crisis. And they don't know how to find their way out. Now, I don't know that I'm able to give them a way out. I think we outgrow these things. I don't think anybody has an understanding that is better than anybody else's. I think the benefit of seeing somebody like me is being able to overhear yourself and have a more objective experience of yourself, which then leads you to be able to maximize the tools that you already have. But those tools are developed by lots of little crises that we experience all throughout our lives. And I mean really little ones, like standing at the subway turnstile and deciding, am I going to let this guy go in front of me or not? Those are all those moments where these things are being formed. By not flipping off the guy who cuts me off, on the freeway.
Sorry, no, it's my wife's phone.
Valhalla is calling.
That was a great point you must have made. Your guys love that. And so that's the practice ground. That's the dojo, right?
That's right.
And that's where we have to always be aware that, if we want to be, that here's where our humanity is formed. It's in these small interactions with people. Smiling at somebody that you don't know. Rather than just, dropping $1 in some guy's hand and not, avoiding a gaze. Look at him. And those are, and so then when a big crisis does happen, we've got a repertoire of experience that we can bring to bear on it. I don't think it's reasonable to think one should always know what to do in any situation. And that's the training ground right there, that confusion. And that's why some people welcome confusion and perplexity and complexity. You think about chaos theory or game theory and all of those kinds of... There's a very complex, confusing scenarios. And order seems to precipitate out of them. How it does that is always a surprise.
But it comes down to that choice. Are you going to give that person who looks miserable a smile and maybe make their day?
It's
or you just
little
walk
choice,
down? And that's the thing, that are you going to have that compassion, that empathy, and that helpfulness? And, you don't have to drive them across town, but that little smile might be enough to make it through their day. And it's that choice of the joy or the anger. You're going to walk through your day angry, continually piling on the mud and the muck over your statue, or are you going to use the tool to slowly chip away, or maybe do it fast, I don't know. Just chip away all that stuff, and all of a sudden you got your beautiful life, which you can then go out on. And I'm saying, once you reach that point, the life ends, maybe it just gets incredibly better. Instead of
If I'm pissed off, if I want to keep the mud on my statue, then I do.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not saying you can't do that, but I'm saying...
the point is, I don't give myself additional grief for doing it. If I feel like shit, I go ahead and go.
Okay, that's you. I'm sure there's
I
like
shit.
millions of other people who actually do give themselves grief for that.
That's their choice.
It's their choice, but again, if they're ignorant of the tools, how are they going to?
The information
how are they
is out
know
there.
better?
Apparently, the information is out there. So if they're looking for, they can call Brad and say, "How do I scoop this crap off of me?" Right?
Don't give him Morgan's number. Geez, maybe that's why I have no clients.
Nice.
Yeah, we done?
I don't know. What do we do?
I don't know.
What's our task for the day?
Okay.
Besides,
Okay. Well, how are we helping people today?
I don't care how we're helping people. We want to help ourselves. We help them to. Listen, you have to be. It's just like the airplane crash. You got to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on the guy next to you.
Okay, is your oxygen mask on yet?
That's what I'm saying. Today we put on our oxygen mask.
Okay. All right.
All right. So we got to go out and we smile at everybody we see. Is that what you want? Huh?
Okay, is that the only tool we got?
Start World War
Smiling?
II?
Is that the only thing we got? Is smiling at everybody? What else can we do? What's in the toolbox?
We
You're just talking
just
about
said that it starts with the small stuff,
Okay,
doesn't it?
I guess.
We don't have to build a monument today. You build a monument with smiles, right? Ah, that's my new bumper sticker.
I don't ever see that being on the back of your car.
That's good.
All right. So
Well,
today we're going to go out and build monuments. Right?
Yeah.
yeah. It's good to experience because, I mean, there's lots of other ways that the world intrudes into this, and we've certainly all experienced that too. And I think this is not to deny that there are really bad things out there or bad people out there. But you have to know the difference. Not everybody is a threat, and even people that look like a threat aren't a threat all the time.
But we're taught that they are. Look at the news.
Well, yeah,
The internet news, the TV news, the newspapers.
that's why I don't.
Everything's a threat.
That's why I don't look at the news.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a television. I don't have a newspaper subscription. I never read a newspaper. Somehow I know the stuff I need to know that's going on around me.
You're informed. You're just not inundated with.
Yeah, because I think the goal is not to disseminate information. The goal is to get ratings, and the way you get ratings is to scare people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've done those good newspapers, and they don't sell.
Mm-hmm.
They can't sell ads to that kind of stuff. No one wants to read it. And actually, the Huffington Post, if you go online, they have a good news feature. It's like buried somewhere, amongst all the links and things. And the headlines are doom and gloom.
So I mean, what we're advocating is definitely, not the usual way that people approach their lives in our culture, especially men.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, typically in our culture, men have one tool in the box, and that's anger and violence. Right? So I know that there's other extenuating factors, but this is still, it seems to me, the way of being in the world that makes the most sense to me. I'm just not going to live behind some bars on the window and 15 locks on the door and all that kind of stuff.
But whatever your decision, as long as you're deciding it from your own experience.
Yeah.
That's what I think. If somebody wants to live behind bars and 15 locks, that's okay with me. As long as they're making an informed decision. And by informed, I don't mean informed from the media and from the internet and everything. I think informed from their abilities, their heart, their skills, and their what they're comfortable with. If they need to have that sense of security in order to feel like they're providing for their family in a positive way, then that's okay.
Just smile at them.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
No, it's good to see you guys.
Yeah. Me too. End episode 2.
Cool.
Got something here.
Think so?
Well, lively, entertaining.
Is it?
Certainly not.